we are finally completing chapter 3 of Alone, book 1. And it's a page and a half, nearly 2 pages. And I want to cover all 3 themes, but they like sort of blend into each other because each paragraph honestly has its own topic where we could discuss and discuss. And I'm going to read, but as I was reading and preparing, I realized that I wrote this book obviously in my 30s. I was 35, 36 when I was completing the book because it was published when I was 37. And I was writing a memoir based on the life I had lived thus far, until then. And I see here that there are certain parts that I don't know if I still feel the same or if society is sort of still like that. So you'll have to let me know on the comments one day if you do comment. But and you'll see what I mean. I will mention when I'm at that part that, it was back in the days. And it's so funny that it's 2025 and this book was published in 2014, talking about my life of 2008 and earlier in the early 2000s. And it still feels like it's quite new, but I realize that it's actually a long time ago. Someone who was born in the year 2000 is 25 today. So it is literally a long time ago. And while some themes are still very prevalent now, and you'll hear what I mean, some, I don't know, and you'll just have to tell me how you guys see it. So without much ado, let me read. Let me start reading. And today I am wearing the red glasses because someone said that they like the red glasses. They make me look cute. They all make me look cute. Now that I had all this space and living alone, I started thinking more. I'm a thinker by nature, but this time I started thinking deeply and consistently about real issues in life, not only in my life, but also about society in which I lived in. And you'll remember that I had a TV, but I never switched it on. The only time I would switch it on was when Tau and Tebe and Solo visited me, because they used to come every weekend, especially the boys, Tebe and Tau. Tsulu, not so much because Tsulu had started getting busy with her dance and just she was in matric and she was just busy. And, sometimes she'd come to Boxback and sometimes she wouldn't. Okay. So I would go to work. And I remember I used to just pipe because I would arrive at work at 6:30. For me, I was just dodging the traffic. I don't like traffic. But I just so happens that by 6:30, maybe latest to 7, I'm in the office and I'd start. And, my bosses would think I am such an exemplary. I'm such an exemplary employee. And I don't have stress of dropping children at school. I live alone and I enjoyed my work and I just loved to drive from Boxback and getting into that highway on the N24, R24, R21, then R24, then Kaluli's interchange, and just getting onto the N3 and then getting into London Road because the office was in Sandton. I mean, yeah, Marlborough Drive or London Road, depending on how I felt or which direction I wanted to take. And the roads would be so clear at 6 in the morning. And I really, really loved that. So yeah. So I was thinking I would come home and I would take a shower and I would be feeling a lot. I mean, there's a lot of tears, which I'll get into as we continue with the chapters. But there was also a lot of thinking, and I was thinking deeply about society that we live in. And this is at the point that I was at. Okay. And what I'm about to read now, that's what I was referring when I was introducing the video, that I'm not so sure if society still treats women like this, but you'll let me know. You'll let me know. Maybe I live in a bubble. I don't know. So I started thinking about real issues in life, not only in my life, but also about the society in which I lived. Society discourages women to be themselves, to find themselves as individuals. Do society still do that? Because I don't know, I feel like society is relaxing a little bit, especially after the Me Too movement and a lot that has happened over the years that the feminist movement did, and just the whole empowerment of women. I don't know. Another, which seems like a digress, but it's not. I do a lot of work with the college here in Beaufort West, and I've noticed that the college has more girls than boys. There was this one class that I was giving a talk to, and there were plus minus, give or take, 39 students. And out of the 39, there were literally 5 boys, and the rest were girls. And when I asked the headmaster, the principal, Linda, and it's like, yeah, no, this is the norm. It is 70-30. And even that 30 will eventually drop out along the way. They won't finish the 3 years or whatever. So yeah, that's where we are at. But this is where I was back then, right? Society considers women successful if she society considers a woman successful if she moves from her father's house to her husband's house with minimal kicking and screaming, meaning that society does not encourage individualism. So we prefer you to move from your dad and get married and so on. I don't think that is a fact right now. Maybe society might prefer that, but that's not what's happening. You know, women are living alone a lot. And the next theme, I'm going to make a point around that. So society deems it normal for a woman to endure unthinkable pressures and ills without complaining. I would think about how, as Black women in my 30s, as a Black woman in my 30s, it was still considered strange to be living alone, unwed, or worse, divorced. That's true. For me, at 32, living alone in a townhouse, yeah, that was very strange for some people. But in my world, it wasn't. So that's why it kept baffled me. And you'll hear what I mean as I completely read, as I continue to read. The security guards in my complex had vowed to find me a man. There was one in particular who kept insisting that I must be a lesbian. He said if it wasn't for the children that visit me on weekends, he was convinced that I was not heterosexual. I was not a heterosexual woman. His sheer ignorance really just baffled me. Like he would say things like he was very, very Zulu. I just can't remember his name, but he had this, he had the, an English name. There's a Zimbabwean kind of name, book goodness type of, yeah, he had one of those names. I just can't remember. And he would say, "Ngumfazi onjani unganandoda?" Like all the time, every time it was his turn, because you know security guards have shifts and sometimes at night duty, sometimes at day duty. But whenever we used to just have, I I'm a very, very friendly person, but that guy, ooh, that guy Nantina, like just Nantina, you know, he would say things like "Ngumfazi onjani unganandoda?" Uphi baba walengane. Like on Fridays when I pick up my boys and I'll drive back with them, and he would say nasty things like, still this week kuzaba ingane kuphela le ngane zalaba even like who are you, who are you, you know, what kind of a woman does not have a man, where is the father of these children? He would condescendingly ask me. The guard started and oh gosh, this is why I, you know, got him to lose his job. This guard started giving bachelors in my complex, in the complex, my home number. You know, I lived at number, number Magnar. It was a huge complex. Was it 45? I think I was at number 45. So he gave like bachelors my home number. One evening, a stranger knocked at my door and demanded to take me out to dinner, saying that I requested a date via security. In fact, I remember that little conversation because he said things like, yeah, no, ubani konje that guy. I said, goodness, God is good. One of those names. Um, Atuporegile. So I'm here to take you as asambe siyesibayeni. There was this other very not my scene type of place in Kempton Park called the Sibayeni. Huh? Yeah. The things we see as single women, you know, back then, I don't know what's your experience now. You know, because back then there was no WhatsApp, there was BBM, there was remember BlackBerry, BB something. Yeah, but you know, things has drastically changed since then, for the worse, I believe. Anyway, he demanded to take me out to dinner, saying that I had requested a date via security. He came ready to take me out. What surprised me was how sure he was that the date would happen. I mean, I was in my alone space. I did not want to socialize. I did not socialize. Like I said, I would go to work early, I would come back in the evening. The only social events that I would do were work related when we took clients out, or it would be drinks after work with my colleagues. Anything else, I wouldn't. It would be my children on weekends, and it would be work during the week, and no TV because I was in the fields. I was alone. I was in my alone moment. So I was not interested in, especially men. I was not interested at all. So I told him off, and I was like, you know what? I'm not the type of girl. I am not going to be going out with a stranger. I don't know you. I will never ask a security guard to find me a guy. You know? What surprised me was how sure he was that the date would happen. He was taken aback when I declined. He was literally shocked. Gosh. I dismissed the actions of the security guard as a misguided patriarchal tendency, but when it happened for the second time, I reported him to the security company. I don't remember, I think it was Fidelity, but it was a big security company. I wrote an email. I went to their local offices. I reported him to the caretaker of the complex. Oh, very nice guy, actually. And I told my landlord that this is what's happening. And I never saw him again in the complex. So if he lost his job, I'm sorry, or maybe they must have moved him. But yeah, I had to do that. Okay, we have to finish chapter 3 because there's more to read. This is theme 2 now. So the first theme was just how men in the complex and the security guy. Now the second theme, you're gonna like this one. There was a woman who lived on one floor above me. So it was a huge complex. I think it had 4 floors and it had rows and rows. It's one it's like mid-range right now. Very pretty complex, by the way. There was a woman who lived one floor above me with a philandering husband. That husband, that guy, when you catch his eye, he winks. He was so strange. And I think the woman knew. I think we know our guys. I think women know. And I think women know more than know their guys. They know what kind or what type of guy your man will go to. So he always just did, the snacks. He would, if you catch his eye, maybe go spa or wherever, he would wink or he would just do funny things, very, very interesting. So there was a woman who lived one floor above me with a philandering husband that made her extremely insecure. Most Friday evenings, particularly month ends, she would come to my apartment with a bottle of wine. She would come with a bottle of wine or some savannas or something. And she would talk about him, like how, I'm a I'm a those type of things. And then what I'm telling you now is not in the book. It was edited. I wish it was actually. But he would talk about his dirty man and how he treats her badly and so on. And she was visibly and energetically insecure. And obviously, a lot of single women made her insecure. I wasn't the only single woman living in the complex, but I was the single woman who was in close proximity to her. I mean, they were literally above me. So you talk about this dirty man. She would threaten to leave him most of the times when she's crying on my couch, sipping on some wine, and she would threaten that she's definitely going to leave him. And then on Sunday, so she's threatening to leave him on Friday, and then Sunday you see them all lovey-dovey. So let me read that part. When I would see them at our local spa on Sunday, all lovey-dovey, buying groceries and newspapers, she wouldn't even look my way. Her husband would always greet me with those weird innuendos, those, like, gosh. But he was also quite nice to my boys. And Tebe, at the time, Tebe was around 11 years old, and Tebe was into soccer. He was starting to get into soccer. And so they would have like a nice little conversation about the derby or whatever that was playing that day. Tebe is that type. He was a very matured boy who speaks to older men like Gidi Takatsagai. And here's the juice, here's the tea. One Friday evening, as usual, she knocked at my door without saying a word. And I'm thinking, she's going to do the thing. She's going to come in with wine, and akale. I thought that is what would happen. Without saying a word, she handed me a small note, handwritten. And it read, "My husband does not want you. Stay away from him. You single women are a pain. Get your own man." I laughed it off, but the next day I couldn't let it go. After my run, I used to run. I used to be a gym bunny. I was so hot and so split tummy, so thin. I laughed it. After my run, I slipped a note under their door that read, "I don't want him either. Please keep him. I insist." It was sarcastic and shallow of me, not my proudest moment. But soon after, they moved without me even noticing. Sometimes when neighbors move, one moment you have a neighbor and the next new people are moving in because we are busy with our lives. It's not like we're watching them. So they moved soon after that whole incident. Last thing. Right next door to me was a Nigerian couple. Oh my God, this lady. The wife always invited me to church, and she kept telling me that only if I go to church with her would I find a husband. A husband. I can't do the accent now. Or the father of my boys will come back. Let me read that again, actually. Right next door to me was a Nigerian couple. The wife always invited me to church and kept telling me that if only I go to church with her, if I go to church with her, I would definitely find a husband. Or the father of my boys would come back. She never bothered to ask me about what was going on in my life. She had concluded that something was wrong because I live alone as a young woman. Come to church, Mama Lebo. Come with me to church, she would always insist. It's not good for a woman to be alone. Come, God will help you. She would say in a heavy Nigerian accent. I would always respond by saying that God was working very hard with me directly, every day, in fact, and that I did not need the church as a middleman. Yeah, and those days I was also deeply getting into the spiritual journey, which I'll get into as we continue reading, right? I did not need church as the middleman. She would shake her head in disbelief. She was very generous and very kind and always shared her Nigerian fish dishes. Have you ever had a Nigerian meal? It would be delicious and it had an interesting taste, which I enjoyed because I'm a foodie. And I would just always be interested in the mixing the spices, but there would be a fish taste with pork and chicken all in one and a very interesting rice texture. I really actually loved their food. So she was very generous and always shared her Nigerian fish dishes whenever she made it and gave me weird vegetables, but those bananas that you cook, or was that the Congolese? Yeah, anyway, weird vegetables if whenever one of her cousins or sisters visited from Nigeria. She always had treats for my sons on weekends. And she also had a 2-year-old who would play with Dao because Dao was also a baby at the time. And yeah, that's it about chapter 3. Maybe just as final reflections based on what I've read so far is that more than reflections, maybe I have some questions, especially for women in their 30s, early 40s, and even, those of you who are in your 20s, mid 20s. I would like to know how your dynamic with men is, how your dynamic with society is. Is society still asking you questions like, when are you getting married? Are people still interested in whether you have children or not? Are you still being asked weird questions like, yeah, let's say, for an example, you say, I have 2 kids or I have 3 kids. And strangely, the next question would be, are they from the same father? Like, what is up with that? Those are my kids. They're your children. What is up with whether they're from the same father or not? The person who's meant to ask that is someone who you are probably dating and it's getting serious, but it's none of anybody's business, really. I also would like to know if you're living alone and how are you finding it? Are you leaning into it? Are you enjoying it? Or are you just enjoying it? And yeah, what's going on with your alone journey? What are you finding? What are you seeing? And I know that I'm asking this question at a different era because my alone days, social media was not a thing. Social media was brand new, and I only joined Facebook in 2009. And most of my 20s and early 30s, na go sena Facebook, na go sena social media. So, because I know social media, any technology that changes the world will impact on the dating and how society sees things and all that. I know that there's a lot of single women living in Midrand and apparently townhouses and Midrand is in Joloville. I don't know. So if you are brave and you would like to start commenting, that would be awesome. But if you can't comment here, um, join me on Patreon. My Patreon, you can join for free because all the videos that I share here on YouTube, I also share them on Patreon, and then we can discuss there because Patreon is a private space. And then while the videos are free, obviously here, but on Patreon, it is for people who are members so that we can just, be free and connect and comment on that site. But yeah, it would be nice to see a comment here on YouTube, and more than a comment, please like also and subscribe. And this is my story. I cannot wait to hear yours.